So given that maybe I haven't actually turned him down officially, I've just called him a fraud, maybe you can address that.
Well, I'll address it, Nathan. So are we talking fraud by false representation, which is when someone makes a false statement, knowing it to be untrue or misleading to make a gain or cause a loss? Yeah, you know, Nathan, like you do whenever you click the go live button on your channel.
Now, as a result of him offering a trip to Antarctica based on a sponsor paying up the money to take me there, I mean, there's 30k on the line from a sponsor, apparently.
Well, there's no apparently about it. I've got the email right here. Now, I've redacted the sender's name for obvious reasons, but he says, "Hey, Will Duffy, how are you doing? I'm into FE topics since a long time. Straight to the topic, I want to pay full expenses of Nathan Oakley for the Antarctica trip, even if it goes as high as $50,000. I watched his debates a few years back many times. If he says yes, just let me know. I'm all in for it and I'll sponsor it without a second thought. Thanks." So yeah, there's no apparently about it, Nathan. Somebody wants to pay for you to attend the final experiment out of their own pocket. That leaves me with one question. Are you man enough for it, Nathan?
No, but I have now called the guy inviting me a fraud.
Please subscribe.
Okay, so calling someone a fraud is a pretty serious accusation, especially if you factor in that the person doing the accusing is a flat earther whose entire living depends on lying to people about the shape of the earth. Now, we've all heard Oakley talking about the final experiment, and he keeps referencing a guy called Robert Shortman, who apparently spent over a year working in Antarctica as a plumber and says he didn't see the sun stay in the sky for 24 hours. Now, we'll get to Robert a little bit later in this video, but first I thought we should take a look at Nathan's video called "Will Duffy Get Oakley's Help Committing Fraud?" to see exactly what his problem is with the final experiment and with Will Duffy himself. I mean, it couldn't possibly be because Nathan knows that come December his grift will be ending, could it?
For whatever reason, the final experiment has gained a certain degree of traction.
Yeah, and that's because normal people are really interested in the observation itself. And before you say the final experiment isn't an experiment, which completely baffles me, an observation is an essential part of an experiment. Without an observation, then there is no experiment at all.
And as that is the case with people endeavouring to call others shills based on their conclusions, there's no need.
Oh, so there's no need to call other flat earthers shells, and I can only assume you're talking about Jaron, but it's perfectly fine to call the person who organised the final experiment a fraud, even though you have absolutely no way to back up your claim.
You couldn't back up a phone, you cunt.
You need to explain why it's a fraud, Nathan, not just say it is.
Let's just break down what actually is going on with the final experiment.
Awesome, yeah, let's do that.
The whole point of the final experiment is to mask an antipodal assumption.
No, it's not. The final experiment is a way to finally settle the debate over the shape of the Earth once and for all. Flat Earthers have said for 10 years that there's no 24-hour sun in Antarctica.
We do not have a 24-hour sun in the south.
The 24-hour sun in Antarctica doesn't work on a flat Earth.
On a flat Earth, you can't have a 24-hour sun, a midnight sun in Antarctica. And I totally agree.
In the flat Earth model, we say there isn't a 24-hour sun in the south, and there isn't.
There is no midnight sun in Antarctica.
Because a 24-hour sun in Antarctica does not work on a flat Earth. And they've also said that a 24-hour sun in Antarctica would prove the globe. So the final experiment is headed to Antarctica with both flat earthers and globe earthers to see whether or not there's a 24-hour sun and put this stupid debate to bed once and for all.
What does that mean? It means that for them to suggest that they're proving a ball, they must first assume they're on a ball.
Yeah, but that isn't what the final experiment is. Look, let me simplify it because it is very, very straightforward. Flat earthers say there is no 24-hour sun in Antarctica, Globe Earthers say there is, and Will had the idea to take us all so that we could see for ourselves which one of us has been right all along. And when I say everyone, obviously I don't mean every flat earth debunker and every flat earther that uploads to YouTube. I know flat earthers seem to think that Will is some secret Scrooge McDuck character, but I'm sure even he's not rich enough for that.
Would you consider it a social experiment to see, which flat earthers are gullible enough to believe that looking up at the sun is going to prove anything beneath your feet?
How these flat earthers see that every time they discredit one of their own, like this guy just did then, it's just adding an extra nail into the flat earth coffin. Instead of trying to discredit people who've agreed to go, try and debunk the final experiment. But you can't. It's impossible.
What are you going to go and look at in Antarctica? The sun? Hello? Is that going to prove what's on the ground? No.
But nobody is claiming that the final experiment is going to prove what's happening on the ground. In fact, it's the exact opposite. The sun, which is what is going to be getting observed, lives in space. And you have to look up to the sky to see that. And the fact that it's going to stay in that sky for 24 hours terrifies flat earthers, because if there was any possible way that you could make it work on a flat earth model, one of you would have done that by now, but none of you have.
Definitely not. How dumb people are is how quickly they recognise that antipodal assumption that's needed for this quasi-experiment. Actually fraud. It's not an experiment, it's fraud.
Oh crap, yeah, I forgot we were talking about fraud. Thanks for keeping me on topic, Nathan. So, what have we got next?
Are you able to answer the question about 24 hours of light in Antarctica on a...
I've interviewed a guy who's not experienced 24 hours of daylight in Antarctica. He spent 18 months there. Have you ever spoken to anybody ever that's been in Antarctica? Because I spoke to a chap who was a plumber on one of the rigs that's out there and spent 18 months there and categorically stated he didn't experience 24 hours sunlight.
You must mean Robert Shortman, this guy.
Can you give us a bit more clarity to what you saw in terms of the sun, what it did? Did you have 24-hour day?
From what I could see, it did the horizon, so it would do an arc rather than a full horizon 360. I don't remember it ever going all the way around. That doesn't come to mind.
So you saw it rise and set, and just once more, just show exactly what you saw it do.
That kind of thing, definitely.
So you can't recall whether the sun did stay in the sky for 24 hours or not, but you can recall the sun doing this, whatever the hell this is. I'm just gonna say it. I call bullshit.
So, unless you've been in Antarctica and can top Robert Shortman's personal testimony that doesn't happen.
Now talking about his personal testimony, Robert Shortman wrote in the team's journal entry in September 2003, which is shortly before the 24-hour sun starts in Antarctica, i.e. the Antarctic winter, and in this entry he says, although it was August when we first saw the sun, we are already running out of darkness. What could that mean? Then 2 months later, the doctor of their team, Gavin Francis, who Robert also mentions in his journal entries, wrote the journal entry for the team on that Sunday, which was the 23rd, and said there was a solar eclipse, the first one ever witnessed in Antarctica. We have had 24-hour sunlight for several weeks now, so although the eclipse was in the middle of the night, we could all see it easily. Now, I'm no expert, but doesn't that directly contradict what you just claimed, Nathan?
Before we go off this subject, because I know there's a dozen, more than a dozen different subjects that we want to go through with you, but yesterday, or the day before yesterday, sorry, you went through sort of comparative differences between what we should experience based on being on a globe in the north versus what you experienced in the south. I mean, without me leading you too much, can you talk us through those differences, or the apparent differences we should experience but don't?
Should experience but don't. Hang on a second, leading the witness. Oh, hang on, we're not in court, are we?
I think that with the way the plane that we imagine is, the centre obviously is the North Pole. Everywhere else from that reads south to north and north to south, so you get a bearing from that wherever you go round. And in the centre there's more land mass, and I think by that in general it is warmer in the north than the supposed south, and that's, well, if you look at the edge of it, the sun takes longer to get to there from the middle anyway, so without the islands and without anything being else there, that's why it's so cold compared to the north, where you get, I think it's -40, -50 in the north, and you could get 60, 70, or they've had even 80s plus in the Russian base.
I hate it when that happens. You know, if you're trying to make something up on the spot and your mouth gets all dry and you stumble over your words. Yeah, I hate it when that happens as well, Rob. I have never seen anybody so nervous and uncomfortable on a live stream in my life. And if you're confident in what you're talking about, and more importantly, if you know what you're talking about, you don't get nervous. You don't stumble over your words like this guy was. The only thing that's missing is a hooded man with a gun being pointed at his head. Rob, why have you let somebody like Nathan Oakley put you in this position?
I know at least a half dozen people who have lived and worked in Antarctica, and their claims would refute your experts.
Excellent. Where are they published?
Nathan, I just showed a journal entry, and it's the same journal that Robert Shortman was filling in, except this time it was one of his colleagues that filled it in, and they stated that they had had sun for weeks. 24-hour sun, that is. And that journal entry was made in November, because I'm not sure if I said the date earlier. And Robert wrote in the same journal on the British Antarctic Survey's website. Although it was only August when we first saw the sun, we are already running out of darkness. Nathan, his journal entry says that when he was there in August, it was dark all the time, and you're too stupid to understand what that does to his credibility.
They published.
Yeah, published? What, like actually prove what I've just claimed, even though I'm a nobody nobody's ever met, and I'm claiming somebody that nobody's met that hasn't met me is actually proof that there's actually a refutation to your claim of a guy who's actually on videotape saying it?
Nathan, you may have Robert Shortman on videotape, who's obviously been coached by you to say whatever the hell you wanted him to say, but his journal entries tell a very, very different story, don't they? And hopefully any flat earthers that stumble across this video will now be able to see you for the complete liar you are.
I can easily provide that for you. Are you suggesting, though...
Go on then. Now.
Therefore it...
Go on then.
Are you suggesting...
Go on then. Let's see it. You said I can easily provide that for you.
Or it's true.
Sorry, are you going to ignore me?
No.
So go on then. Let's see it right now.
Well, he isn't ignoring you, is he, Nathan? You were being the pathetic little man-child you always are on your live stream, and you're just talking over him and muting him every time he tries to open his mouth. This guy is offering to provide you with exactly what you just asked for.
I can stutter like a bitch, or you can provide it right now.
Oh, I don't have it with me right now.
Oh, so you can't? You fucking lying scumbag shithead. So when you said you could provide it quite easily, you're actually fucking lying to us.
Someone says...
So you're a fucking liar. So you'd have had my audience believe that you could top Robert Shortman's videotape testimony of no 24-hour sun with something that you simply cannot provide?
Yeah, why not? Especially when you consider that his videotape testimony is completely contradicted by his own journal entries and the journal entries of his colleagues.
I can provide it for you.
Go on then.
Let's
see it then.
I know people.
Sorry, go on then.
Who have been
go on then. Go on then. Go on then.
You know, I've seen 7-year-old kids who have got better debating skills than Nathan Oakley. There's a reason he will only debate people on his own channel, and it's called the mute button.
So perhaps Will Duffy can address my claims of fraud. Not an experiment. Potentially going to observe a phenomena and then utilise antipodal begging the question assumptions to suggest that Antarctica's on the bottom of a ball.
I'm sure Will address your accusation of fraud in his own sweet time. See, the problem is, Nathan, is that you're nowhere near as important as you seem to think you are. Thanks for watching, everybody. Love you, bye.